Hey, y'all, did y'all miss us? Because we sure missed you. Look, watch, like, and subscribe to our channel at Sister Sis 1988, as well as follow us on all of our social media platforms at Sister Sis 1988. We're coming back with our second episode with Mr. Ayush. Again, I'm Jamie.
And I'm Calandra.
And we're coming back and we're going to jump right into these questions. Mr. Ayush is giving us so much information on the incoming of AI and how it's affecting our generation these days. So I'll let Calandra go ahead and take the mic.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So we'll talk a little bit. We've been talking about AI. So the data privacy, what would you say AI system handling so much massive information for us personal, governments, individuals? How would you say we can protect ourselves with that?
We can't really.
Mm,
That's one of the problems. So right now, there are a lot of copyright um, lawsuits going out against OpenAI
okay.
for stealing creator IP. Because what happens is that in order to, and I apologize for using jargon. I really hate jargon in this case because it kind of ostracizes certain people. But AI functions on training data. So you use the training data to make the models understand in a certain way. And the training data is just a bunch of documents, videos, photos collected from all over the internet. And so what happens is that a lot of those documents are, creators' IP, their books, their pieces of artwork, their Instagram photos. There are articles behind paywalls and such. And OpenAI and Anthropic, Meta, Google, they all scrape, which is just like they deploy these algorithms to go out and collect these like trillions of documents, massive amounts. And they scrape all of this data and they use it to train their models so that when you ask it certain things, it answers in a pretty good fashion. But what happens if it answers in a way that's like m- my voice, my IP?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who asked me if you could do that? Or, for example, point of AI photo generators, if it creates a photo that's very similar to mine, and that type of photo didn't exist before me, the artist, you get it for free within 30 seconds, but I lose out on the customer. It's my it's my artistic craft, it's my artistic style that was stolen for free. And you're not able to hold these companies responsible. We're going to see this more and more. So in terms of data privacy, there really isn't a thing right now. There are things you can do potentially to try to protect your data. Like there's a file called robots.txt, whatever the name is, which you can upload to your WordPress site or whatever to make it like unscrapable by AI word crawlers. How how well that works is not really understood. Like it might just be a band-aid rather than a solution. Um, but it's one of those things where as we move forward with ChatGPT and its sister models, we start seeing the real ramifications of, first of all, how much data they have on us, and also how easy it is to access that data and how
Yeah,
easy it is to steal it.
that's something you said, because actually my son, he was the one that said it to me. Really didn't think of it in that way. He was like, we're using these chat GPTs and these other, I don't, that's the main one I know I'd have to say I am guilty of using it sometime. But he was like, why keep feeding it all that information? We're telling it more and more about ourselves, you know? I was like, you know what? That's really true. Because if you want some information, you're putting your prompt in there, you're telling it about yourself and you're telling it how to explain yourself. It even knows your name, it'll come back and spit that out to you. It's amazing how it gives that information to you. But then we talk about privacy, though. You're really telling the internet right there, exactly all about yourself, Yeah. So I
You're
don't know.
telling
Go ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
you're telling OpenAI
Yes.
in a very real way. And one of the things is that it's okay now because it's not as pernicious as it could be. But if I'm a potential voter in 2028 and OpenAI has all of this information, what's to stop them from skewing me in a certain direction, whichever way the wind is blowing through their
Right.
prompts, because they have all of this data on me. They know how I think, they know how I type, they know how I communicate, they know how I don't as well. And so with its answers, whatever I'm searching, it's like, how many times do you need to see a Kit Kat advertisement before you're at the store and you see a Kit Kat and you're like, yo, I could go for one.
Yeah.
Right. True.
I
That's
see
true.
it.
They-
It's very subtle, but I experienced this too, honestly. I saw the Kit Kat advertisement, and 3 weeks later, I'm at the convenience store. I'm looking at all the chocolate. This is back when I used to eat sugar. I'm looking at all the chocolate, and I was like, for some reason, I got the Kit Kat. Like my mind just immediately went to it. And I realized a week later, I was like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. Like I was literally influenced in such a subtle way. I saw one advert. And when you think of how often people are using ChatGPT, when you think about how much information, I'm giving it my accounting stuff, I'm giving it my school stuff, I'm asking it for advice, I'm doing
Yep.
all of these things. What's to stop these companies? Not to just label OpenAI, it's Meta, it's Google, it's Apple,
Yeah.
it's Claude,
Mm-hmm.
it's Anthropic, it's Mistral, to name a few. What's to stop them from, putting it into their output, into their code of, you know, sway them 2% towards this political side, sway them 2% away from this person? What's to stop them? And frankly, we talk about like data privacy and stuff and responsibility. Who do I blame? If I don't even know that I was swayed, if I don't even know
Right.
that I was
True. Yeah.
influenced.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right. So where would you say, like, far as with this decision making, where do we kind of draw the line when it comes to AI, as far as making critical decisions, especially like in healthcare and law enforcement?
Oh, that last one. That's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
When it comes to healthcare, look, again, I don't want to. We talked about the positive influences on the earlier episode. So I do want to say there's a lot of benefit when it comes to artificial intelligence. That's
Right.
never in doubt. But we usually don't really focus on, because the positive benefit is almost immediate. And so the negativity or the detriments are second order. And so we don't really see them until it's too late. Like for instance, social media, I could instantly post anything and connect with anybody, DM anyone, immediate benefit. Second order effects of, 13-year-old girls getting, what's it called? Not bulimia, but the other one. But getting eating disorders
Mm-hmm.
from Facebook through like one other click, through one video recommendation. That didn't show up until much, much later. Anorexia, I believe. When it comes to critical decision making, especially in healthcare, I would really want my doctors, my hospitals to be incredibly, incredibly, incredibly careful. Because one of the problems with large language models is this problem called hallucination. Now, if you don't know, large language models are, first of all, there's no like consciousness or anything in them. They're all just like fancy computation statistics, right? So to be or not to, most people would answer B, right? Shakespeare, right? The language model is just trained on vast corpuses of data, and that's when it responds, it's just responding. It's looking through its training data and generating a response. So one of the problems of hallucination is that it just makes stuff up. So you're like, who was the first president of the United States? You know, random
Mm-hmm.
person, Lucy Liu, or something like that, right? And it's like, no, that's not. We all know that's not true.
Right, Greg.
But for somebody that didn't, they're on their paper and they're like, Lucy Liu, the first president of the United States. And the teacher's like, what are you writing?
Right.
Right?
Right.
And so that's one of the problems. And it's a funny example, but when it comes to healthcare, if I'm using a large language model or something, do I want it to hallucinate on my health problems? Do I
No.
want it to hallucinate on anything like this? Do I
Right.
want it to make stuff up? Absolutely not. So until they solve these problems and the bias thing comes in 100%, like again, if I'm an Indian woman, am I represented in the training data? If not, why would I want to use it? If it's all biased towards, the Caucasian males, why would I use a technology that doesn't recognize me in a literal and metaphorical sense? Why would I ever partake in that? So with bias and hallucination, it doesn't know who I am, so it doesn't know my problems. I speak metaphorically. And also, it just makes stuff up. So in
Right.
healthcare, it's like, why on earth would I ever use that? When it comes to law enforcement, this is a very touchy subject, so I'll be very careful with my words. When it comes to law enforcement, if you are a minority, why
Mm-hmm.
on God's green earth would you ever trust a technology like this with your life?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, so in 2016, there was an algorithm called Compass, and it predicted the levels of recidivism, which is just like how likely are you to commit a crime again.
Okay.
And what it found is that black offendants were 47% more likely to commit a crime again, whereas white offendants were 23%. I believe I'm getting those numbers correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Right. Right.
Because the training data, with the data it was trained on, were
Mm-hmm.
biased against black people and biased for white people.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, my life is in the hands of a quasi-racist algorithm. No, is it literally racist? No, it's just using the data it was trained on, right? So
Right.
there's no like agency or anything. It's not, you know, there's no kind of like hatred for or against a certain group.
No. Yeah.
But if again, I'm not recognized, if the level of treatment is not equal in the training data and what it's trained on, I'm literally my hands are tied behind my back, and my life is in the hands of like again a racist algorithm like that doesn't understand, that doesn't have me in a minority and also in a group setting, or understanding. It doesn't have me represented in it. So the decisions that it's making are fundamentally against me. When it comes to law enforcement, it's like I can't even believe people are thinking about using AI or robots or anything because we haven't even solved the social problems outside of technology. And if technology augments everything, why would we introduce it? How would it solve anything? It would only augment what we're already doing.
Mhm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so again, when people, not to obviously go against you, Kalandra, but when people express these desires of let's just replace all police with robots,
Yes.
it's like, okay, well, how are the robots going to be trained on? Like, what data are the robots going to
What
be
it's told.
trained?
Yeah, it's gonna do what it's programmed to do, what it's told to do. Yeah.
So it's just the same demon with a different mask.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
I think AI definitely has its pros and cons. Like I said, I think
Absolutely.
if I probably wasn't so much into business, then I probably wouldn't see it on the other side, just to be really honest. What are your thoughts on the new Optimus? Have you seen that or heard about that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm skeptical about it, but what I will
Okay.
say is I think that a lot of good could come with robots, like
Okay.
physical robots,
Hmm.
day to day, just like, helping older folks.
Okay.
You know, I know like I have a lot of female friends that are scared to walk alone at night.
Hmm.
And I'm in Montreal, so that's not really a thing here, but in
Okay.
Toronto especially. And so having like robots on every corner that are recording everything, maybe a violation of privacy and security, but as a in a hypothetical, as a female, I'd rather have a bunch of robots recording everything to deter people from committing a crime rather than
Right.
not. So those types of things I think would be great, but also it goes back to how, like, where are we as a society to really coexist with robots? I think there was I'm speaking very vaguely and loosely right now, but I think that there was this kind of cross-country robot that went across the United States,
Hmm.
and I think it got like one or two states in, and then somebody just pulled over and destroyed it. They didn't know
Oh.
what it was. They didn't know
Mm-hmm.
like they didn't know the purpose of it. They just got out and destroyed it. And so as humans, and I'm going to be philosophical for a second, but as humans, I think we have a real hard time sharing, as a collective. I
Okay.
think that's
Hmm.
why we don't really look at animals, pigs, cows, even dogs and cats, dolphins, elephants, whales. We don't really see them as equal. We see them as below us. And I think the same thing is going to happen with robots, which is obviously they don't have sentience or anything. They don't have consciousness. They can't feel. I don't know whether that's better or worse. That's kind of a TBD. But I think that we'll see a lot of people kind of just taking their anger out, destroying things, really like being animalistic to them. And I don't know if that's a great expression to have on society. I really don't see how having robots in every corner that are just able to be destroyed, have your vengeance exacted upon them.
So that's what this Optimus is. I'm sorry, I don't know what Optimus is. I'm kind of lost. Y'all losing me. What's
Go ahead.
It's a new AI robot that supposedly that's coming out by our Mr. Elon Musk. It's being released. So I guess Mr. Ayush, I hope I'm saying that correctly. So you will not be purchasing the Optimus, is what it sounds like, huh?
Probably not.
Probably not
Probably
yet.
not. Unless it can like
be
cook.
a security robot?
Yeah, like I mean, I live in a pretty safe place, so I don't really need the security and stuff, but I would really like I would entertain robots if they could take care of like tasks and chores and stuff. Like
Yeah,
if
because
I
that's what they
can,
were saying. I don't know a whole lot
yeah.
about it, but that's
Oh,
what they were
okay.
saying, Jamie, that he was able to do. Like he can serve drinks, he can fix dinner, he can he can be a nanny to your children. I don't know about that one. That one sounded a little
No.
interesting. There was a lot of different tasks that he could help and complete you do. Yeah,
Okay.
complete
All
you.
right.
So I'm open to robots, but again, it's like who's building them? What are
Hmm.
they capable of? What are they not capable of? And also, just because a new tech exists doesn't mean that we should immediately adopt it,
Right.
right?
That's true.
It's like I really don't want to be a guinea pig.
And
I would
have
rather,
really been through his test run. That's what I want to.
right? Like how tested is it?
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Especially you talking about watching kids. No,
Yeah.
They
got
were
that.
I
comparing
and
they were comparing it to the vehicle though, to the car, because that's basically what they're saying. The Tesla or all these other electronic vehicles, they're basically robots on wheels, is what they
Okay.
were
yeah,
explaining. As
that's definitely true.
yeah, and it's taking
But even
a
with
subset of the
kids,
woman.
I know this article came out on scipost.org, if people want to check it out, but it's a very recent article. I think it's like from a week ago. But they were talking about how babies still respond well to eye contact from robots. Like it's very important to
Mm.
them. Eye contact is very important with kids. And so with Optimus, I'm going kind of a couple steps ahead, but if it doesn't have any eyes in a
Oh yeah.
literal
Mm-hmm.
and like designed way, how does that affect kids?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're
Mm-hmm.
already like most people already struggle with eye contact because they're not here, they're here, right? They're not able to look people in the eyes anymore. That's a problem with my generation. It's going to be a massive problem for Gen Alpha. The kids that were growing up during COVID, they didn't get any time to socialize in school from a young age. They weren't able to develop their social skills and stuff. And so it's like, yeah, Optimus is going to be cool in certain contexts, but like for all of these things, I don't really see how it's going to benefit in the long run.
Yeah, that kind of goes into the next question that I actually had as well too. Like for as the Gen Zs being introduced to so much digital technology at an early
Yeah.
age, how do you think that affects them cognitively with their development and their brain function?
So one of the new parts of my book was about precisely this. It's how my generation's brains and minds were morphed around technology. And so, if I can get into the weeds here, it was so the human brain takes about 25 years to develop. We start off as a blank slate and we kind of develop around our environment. And so, what happens if our environment houses digital technologies like the iPhone, etc., an iPad, Alexa, and also digital platforms like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all of these things? What happens is we start literally morphing around technology. And this is different to other generations because where other generations had a childhood without technology in this hyper context and then adopted all of these techs, Gen Z just grew up in it. So they were adapted to it from a very early age.
And knew how to work it, know how to
Oh yeah.
work it and everything. Yeah.
And so we see, not in an acute way, but in a disastrous way, technology as our portal into society. And so in the earlier episode, I was saying, social media is our expression of ourselves. I'm not just saying that to say that. It's literally like my social media, if I'm the average Gen Z, my TikTok, my Instagram, my Snapchat, my Twitter, my not Facebook account anymore, but all of these things, they're literally reflections of myself. Then you go to the social status points of view, which we already talked about. The most interesting thing, and this is kind of a new intersection of like techno neurobiology of dopamine, right? So we have an understanding of how dopamine works. And so if my dopamine is constantly spiking with tech, I'm obviously more attuned to use tech as much as possible. And the reach thing of like having access to it for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, immediately, day and night. Gen Z, the most active time is between 9 and 11 p.m. To the point, and people don't really know this, to the point where this is the psychology of these companies and how perverse it is. In 2017, Reed Hastings, who is the CEO of Netflix, said, our biggest competitor isn't YouTube. This is not verbatim. Our biggest competitor is not YouTube or Disney Plus or Prime Video. Our biggest competitor at the margin is sleep, right? It's a massive chunk of time that, we need to compete with. And so just think about that. The Netflix CEO is saying we need to compete with the biological necessity of our users. And so when you think about this, it's horrifying to start off with, right? But as a 10-year-old, I don't know any of this. I'm just using these tech. I'm just using all of this tech to interact with my peers, with my classmates, with my family. I have no clue what effect, what kind of impact it's having on me, on my day-to-day, on my week, on my month, on my year, on my decade, on my life. And so we're just blindly giving kids what, this wasn't the CTO of Facebook, but I know a lot. First of all, if a tech comes out and the CEO's kids don't use it, don't use it. Okay. If they tell their kids not to use a certain piece of technology that they created, don't use the technology. Okay. That's why Mark Zuckerberg doesn't allow his daughters on Facebook. Okay. You'll never find them there. Why? Because he knows how dangerous it is.
Exactly.
Okay. But yeah, no, it's truly horrifying and disgusting and always referred to as electric cocaine or digital heroin. This is social media being referred to as electric cocaine.
Those titles, I agree.
Yeah.
It's like, why on earth would you ever engage with this without really why would you ever give, like, I put this in the book of like, obviously there are news reports of this, but if you ever heard of a parent injecting their kid with heroin, you would wish such bad things on them. Like, I want you to get the fastest door to hell, right? But we all give our kids phones and social media.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's
early
the same
ages.
thing.
Such early
Really
ages. Yeah.
Like,
6-year-olds with cell phones.
yeah, like 5-year-olds are using TikTok. 5 years old.
You see 1-year-olds and they know how to work the phone, and you're like, what? Like, I'm in disbelief when I see that. They're really working the phone like an adult,
They know how to go to a video and watch it, go to a game, go to whatever. It's a little bothersome, I must say.
It's horrifying. And this is good.
I'm sorry. I was saying I go back to a long time ago, a show. We might have did this show about a year or two ago. But I was talking about social media maturity or virtual maturity, because for me, I have those. I have all these platforms. I have Facebook, I have Instagram, but I'm not, it's not like that for me. It's like, for when I'm on it, I'm on it. And then, I do notice that, sometimes when you get on there, you'll find yourself scrolling a little bit longer than what you meant to, but you have to have that attention span and be like, oh, let me put that down. But I'm trying to figure out, like, what is it about people that this is like, now I'm not Like for the people that gets paid, they getting 50,000, 40,000, whatever that is that Facebook and Instagram is paying them. That's a job.
Mhm.
They're having to do that. They've learned how to manipulate social media and to their audience and making people follow them the way that they do. I haven't quite learned that. We haven't even quite learned that for, our channel. We're still learning. But for some people, it's just like it's a heroin, it's cocaine. It's like a every day they can't let it go. This goes past kids. I'm talking about adults.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking for a child to have a lot of maturity. I'm looking for a child to really believe the stuff that they see on here because the child hasn't really mentally fully developed, socially mentally developed. But for a grown person, a person that's lived a life, that's been married, maybe have a child, it's like some of these things that they're doing and saying and participating in, you just like, come on, you're an adult.
Right.
You're
Like, do better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't figured that one out yet.
Oh, I can explain it to you. It's
No.
a horrible explanation, but it's like, so we talked about dopamine, right?
Yeah.
So I really like cookies. And so if I were to go and eat a cookie right before I take a bite, chocolate chip, classic. Right before I take a bite, my dopamine spikes because I'm getting a reward, right? So I take the bite, everything is gravy. What happens when I take the next bite, or I'm about to? So let's say your dopamine, and this is Dr. Anna Lemke from Dopamine Nation, brilliant book, one of the greatest books of the 21st century. Everybody should read it, audiobook, whatever. Search her podcast, incredible amount of information that woman has. So picture your dopamine as like a seesaw. So this is your reward, this is your this is the pain, this is pleasure, right? So you eat the cookie and your pleasure goes immediately up, right? But as it's coming down, you get more pain, right? And so your body is like, this feels weird, I hate this, take another bite, right? So you would think that the pleasure would go back up to the same place. It doesn't. Instead of here, the pleasure from eating the next cookie or taking the next bite just goes here. And so as it's coming down, you need the third bite or the third cookie to take the pleasure back up. So you eat it, but it just goes here, right? And so what is happening is, I mean, that's cool for cookies or whatever, but we're eating more and more and more chips, cookies, whatever, alcohol to spike that pleasure, but it never goes back to the first hit, the high of the first hit. And we just feel pain. So what ends up happening is that people start consuming whatever substance, whatever vice, not to get pleasure, but to avoid pain, right? That becomes their baseline. This is all well and good. Not really. When it comes to social media, when I'm scrolling, the novelty of it, it's literally like a gambling machine of, okay, new one, golden retriever, cool. 3 seconds later, I'm kind of bored. Pain, swipe again. Dopamine, not as much though. Pain again, swipe, swipe, swipe. And we call that doom scrolling, right? We call that like bed rot or whatever. And so this is kind of the psychology that Gen Z not adopted, we're adapted for. And this is why I wrote all of these things, is because I don't really think people understand or know how evil all of this is. Like they're being exposed to literally like, in Harry Potter, those demons that are like sucking the energy out. It's literally that, just in technology. I just hold my watch or I hold my phone. It's literally that.
Yeah.
They're just sucking all the attention and money and like all of these things, energy. And so, anyway.
Yeah.
That social media, I have a love-hate type of relationship with it, to be honest. Because to me, the way that I think that in order to be an influencer, anybody can be an influencer. And they can come on there, you can basically make up whatever you want and be whoever this fictitious person that you want to be. To me, I think that there should be something put into place where you have to be vetted out in order to be an influencer. That's what I think. Because you have people that they really struggle with true mental health illnesses, and where they're not able to determine and decipher, is this true or is this not true? You know, some of us, we're able to do that, but some people are not. So they're following this person. They end up giving people money, their whole life savings, honestly, to
Hmm.
live this lavish life that they see. I think we touched on that in a previous previous episode, to live this lavish life when they're rented vehicles, when it comes down to it, when you find out. To me, I think there should be some type of line that's drawn where individuals have to be vetted out. There's some protection for just us as human beings. Because anybody, I can go on there and just make up anything I want to say, you know, and if I'm able to be persuasive enough to get my audience to buy in, then they follow you. Next thing you know, Dr. Jamie, you mentioned all these influences they make. That's what I thought about when you said that. They're making, you know, they make a whole, that's all they do is influence. And I know half of them, that's not even really what they're putting out there. It's not even really true, you know. But then you have all of these people they're hoping and dreaming that their life can be exactly like this person's, when that's not even really what it is. They probably never even owned a business, but yet they're up there portraying that they have owned a business, they've done X, Y, and Z. So I think that's why I'm so in the realm of, like, with social media, like, especially personally wise, I definitely try my best to stay off of that. I think the people that need to know whatever they need to know about me, they know me personally. I don't have to get up there and put on a show or a front, you know, on social media, yeah, about who I
Absolutely.
am. So yeah. But at
100%.
any rate, so going on to the next question that I have here. So about attention span. So there's a lot of concern about Gen Z.
Yeah.
Gen Z may have a shorter attention span due to their constant engagement with the fast-paced digital content. Do you think this is true? And if so, how can we mitigate this?
So 100%, there's a shorter attention span. It goes back to, again, as content creators, we all know the hook, 3 to 5 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of the problem with that. And if you see, I mean, if you read Deep Work by Cal Newport, we kind of have this understanding that attention spans have been dropping for like 2 to 3 thousand years, right? So it's not really a new thing. It's just been exponential with digital tech. With Twitter, I don't really need an article. I need 140 characters. Back in the day, now it's like however many you want. Um, so that's kind of where attention spans have come when it comes to YouTube Shorts or Instagram or TikTok. It's like, yeah, 10 minutes or 60 seconds respectively, but the best videos are really 15 seconds. And so what ends up happening is that with a lower attention span, you're obviously not able to consume more, but you're also not able to critically think. And combined with the doom scrolling mentality, you're just absorbing so much noise at such a fast paced rate that you're not able to distinguish between truth and falsehood. And so I could say, as you were saying, whatever I want about anyone or anything I want, and you kind of have to take me on face value. And this is, again, like, I really don't understand how we got here. I do understand it, but I don't understand why we deal with it. And there's no real solution to it because people, it's very difficult to get your attention span back. It's kind of one of those non-elastic things where once it's gone, you have to do so much work to try to get it back. And most people are, no offense to them, they're not going to do it. They just won't put in the work for it. It's too much discomfort. It's too uncomfortable. I'd rather just scroll on TikTok for the next 3 hours. And so that's obviously evil. But when it comes to, like, again, the second order effects of romance or politics or getting a job, if I don't have attention span, what the hell am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to critically think about anything? If
Yeah,
my
right.
attention span is 15 seconds, how am I supposed to understand these complex political understandings?
Mm-hmm.
How am I supposed to hear my partner out and have emotional intelligence? It's
Right.
like, yeah, the relationship failed. Why? Because you weren't able to listen. You know what I mean? In a job, if I'm not able to, like, focus and pay attention to what I'm doing, I'm gonna get fired in the next week because it's like you haven't done anything or you've done such a shoddy job because you can't pay attention.
Right.
You can't focus. And even third order, it's like, how do we expect to solve climate change or get to Mars or solve any of these social issues if the collective has the attention span of a fly?
Right. Right.
It's like there's so many ways to cut the cake, but eventually you get to this, like, or to cut the apple rather, but you eventually get to this like rotten center, this worm at the core of realization that there's there are no benefits to lack of attention span, and we're all doing things to propagate a worse attention span.
With social media being so deeply embedded into Z's life, though, how would you say they should find balance? How should they find? Because we can't avoid it. Just being honest, you know?
I know what you're saying. It's a great question, and there's no good answer for it. For me, I'm a very on and off person.
Okay.
It's like a light switch. Either I use it or I don't. I don't
Okay.
use it. One thing that I think a lot of Gen Z could benefit from is understanding what the effects are. And that's why I don't mean to keep bringing up the book, but that's why I wrote all of these things in that way, is because, okay, I'm not trying to convince you to do certain things. That's not my goal. I'm not that type of person. That's very cultish for me. Is like, oh, this way of life is better. It's like, no, no, no. You're your own human. You can
Yeah.
figure it out for yourself. You're smart enough. But if you have the knowledge and you have a positive actor giving you the knowledge, like I'm not trying to get money from you. I don't really care if you know my name. I don't really care if you even remember what the book is called. All I care about is that you have the information. And so if you have that, then maybe you see remnants of what I'm talking about in your daily life. And maybe you take that as, okay, well, a lot of what he's saying is true. So maybe I listen to certain things of, or maybe I pursue different actions of using it much less. Like instead of an hour or 3 hours a day, try, 10 or 30 minutes a day.
Right.
Like really give yourself time in between. Take up meditation, right? You know, pursue social activities like martial arts, for example, or go to yoga classes or cooking classes or whatever you want, but just be social. Do things that cause you to not use technology type of thing.
Right.
Even like very abrasive things like cancel all your subscriptions to streaming services. Just a
Okay.
waste of time. Like all of these things, it's not going to work for everybody, obviously. And I don't expect, like I dislike it when people give all of these very broad examples that they think apply to everybody. It's like, no, if I'm a single mother of two, I can't go to yoga classes, right? It's like that doesn't exist for me. I have stuff to
Realistic for you.
do. I have
Right.
people to take care of, right? Like it's so inappropriate to even try try saying these things. My life as a single young male is completely different to a single mother of two in a different part of the world. So
Right.
so even trying to like offer improvements or whatever is silly. But if you understand the knowledge and the information in your own way, then maybe you can see what you can do through your own lens, through your own interpretation. It doesn't necessarily have to be one to one with me, but balance for everybody is different. For some people, eating 5 cookies a week is cool. For some people, no cookies a week is cool. It's still balance at the end of the day. It's just in a different, it's just with a different filter.
Right. So for each person that's different. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So remind us the name of your book again, and who would you say your book is for?
The book is called AI for Gen Z, A Story of Technology and Society. The book is really for anybody it's for all of Gen Z. It's written in that way. There's no jargon. It's a very easy read. You can read it in an afternoon, and that's purposeful. I find all of these books about artificial intelligence or anything technically complex is like you need 5 hours a day. You need Google right by your side. It's like, no, no, no. If I understand anything about my generation, they hate, like, anyway. It's really for anybody that really wants to understand how technology has impacted society or what the
Okay.
social impact of technology is. So if that interests you or piques your curiosity, 100%. And let me say, by the way, I don't want your money. I like if you need to email me for a torrent or whatever, please do. I really don't care about the notoriety or the money or the fame or whatever. It's all about getting the information to the right people. So if
Okay.
you need it, please email me. I guess we'll put my
Yeah, you can
email or
provide us
whatever
with it.
in. Absolutely. But yeah, as long as you have the information and you can do something with it, we've won.
Okay. Sounds good. And what platforms can they find that on? your book?
I think Amazon,
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
So
Alrighty. Was there anything else you would like to leave us or our viewers with today before we close out?
no, I feel like I've talked way too much. I just want to thank you
Yeah.
both for an entertaining
No, we've
conversation.
enjoyed it. Very relevant topic, I think, right now.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah,
and
it's
we
fun.
thank you so much for taking a Saturday out and doing our show. You know, we look forward. You say you have a podcast. We'll gladly come to your podcast and be guests.
Absolutely.
Everybody else, thank you so much.
Let's
So
do it.
that you have your Saturday back. I think it's 3 o'clock. It's 3 here. What time is it there?
Oh, it's 4:18.
Okay, so
So
an hour, just an hour and something
yeah,
Oh,
ahead.
okay. So not too bad.
It's
Okay.
not
not too bad.
bad. Okay, so until next time,
There
Yeah.
are strength in sisterhood and there's support in sisterhood.
bye.
Bye.